Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of personalized investment advice, but is limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Certified Advisory Corp is registered as an investment advisor with the SEC and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements.
Stay tuned for On the Money, Central Florida's most listened to financial call-in show, brought to you by Certified Financial Group in Altamont Springs. It's the only show hosted exclusively by certified financial planner professionals. Monday through Friday, their CFPs provide financial planning and investment advice for a fee. But on Saturdays, the advice is absolutely free and has been for more than 30 years for their WDBO listeners. If you have a financial question you want answered by real fiduciaries, the lines are wide open. Call 844-580-WDBO. That's 844-580-WDBO. And enjoy the show.
Welcome to On the Money Show, right here on WDBO 107.3 FM, AM 580, always streaming live inside your WDBO app. This is your chance, you the listener, to listen to the news, listen to some stories, read some smart financial articles throughout the week. Take your notes and come to class today on the air, because we always have certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group available answering your questions. I believe that's usually not a free service offered really anywhere, but at this time, on this hour, on this radio show, brought to you by the Certified Financial Group, it is exactly free. We got Joe Burt and Charles Curry, couple of certified financial planners, like I said, with the Certified Financial Group. If you heard something in the news, or if you're approaching your retirement years and you want to safely get to and through those ever-important, ever-changing years, this is your chance to hop on the air and call. And we have Joe and Charles, or send in your open mic using that WDBO app. Joe, Charles, how are we doing today?
Good morning. We're doing great, Josh. Good to be with you, and welcome back after your vacation you took there. Well-deserved, I'm sure. But anyway, Charles and I are here this morning to take calls that might be on your listeners' minds, our listeners' minds, that we have been now for more than 30 years. Questions that you might have regarding your IRA, 401k, savings, investing, long-term health care, reverse mortgages, annuities, life insurance, all those things that Charles and I and now the 15 other certified financial planners, we're proud to, in fact, since you've been gone, we've added another certified financial planner to our team here. Josh, Dylan Little, a certified financial planner, is proud to join our team. And great guy, and he'll be on the air here one of these days soon. But anyway, there are now 17 certified financial planners here with Certified Financial Group, and we're here to help you. As I said, we're here to take your questions. Monday through Friday, we do financial planning, retirement planning, investment planning for a fee. On Saturday morning, we are here for you absolutely free. So if you have any questions, anything that's on your mind, things you might have heard, things you're trying to figure out, that's why we are here, to try to help you through those challenges. And I see a call popped up. Do you want to take that, Josh? Do you want to go right to the topic of the day?
Sure. I'll go ahead and get John's question live on the air. But if you do want to join the conversation, the number, of course, is 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO, or send in your open mic using that free WDBO app. Today's topic right now, while I talk to John and whoever else may call, is strategies and ways that can help you maximize your legacy.
Yes, in terms of that, and one of the big things for us here is we have folks come in from time to time saying, I've succeeded in life. I've amassed more wealth than I ever imagined I could amass in my lifetime. And I'm really interested in getting help on how can I leave a legacy. And with that, it's an important kind of piece. A lot of folks, when you think about leaving legacies, it's about how do you kind of reduce your taxes and reduce costs in your life while growing and preserving their investments. And today I just want to talk about several strategies aimed at making that happen. A strong retirement income plan, of course, requires discussions around several areas to ensure kind of your financial health is protected. Some of those components may seem obvious, such as making sure your plans are aligned, especially for large expenses or for retirement income, while others might not be as obvious, such as aggressively managing your taxes and making sure you're taking advantage of every kind of tax way to reduce or eliminate taxes for yourself. And that's why working with a certified financial planner is essential when it comes to helping you kind of navigate those big challenges. One of those things about creating a legacy that lasts, of course, is a lot of what we do is helping people make sure they have enough assets to support their lifestyle and retirement, which is, of course, kind of playing good defense. But once you have enough assets, you may want to look at maximizing your legacy for your beneficiaries or going on offense.
So, one of the things that we see, Charles, is that folks, as you said, have accumulated some wealth and they want to leave it on to their heirs, to their beneficiaries, usually children and grandchildren. But unless they've really done some planning, they have no idea how generous or maybe how conservative they ought to be in their giving. And that is really the benefit of doing planning, is to look at, as you're talking about, what your expenses are, what you want to do, what you need to do, planning for long-term health care, all the contingencies that might come up, taking vacations, buying cars, all that stuff. And then how much cushion do you have? And then the nice thing to do is be able to give some of that money away while you're still living and see the fruits of that. And that's what really planning is all about. Unfortunately, many people just don't know what they can do. And many people I've seen this on occasion where people give away too much and then they get into their late 80s and 90s and realize they perhaps shouldn't have been so generous in their 70s. And now they're relying on their children. And conversely, you wake up when they're 93 years old and realize they really could have been more generous and they saw their kids and grandkids struggle. So that is the benefit of planning, to really know what you need and what you can and cannot do.
Exactly. And that's benefit of planning and allowing you to really make informed decisions. And that way you can live the lifestyle you want to live and not either give away too much assets in the beginning and say, we're moving in with the children, or conversely, that you live too frugally and not able to do all the things that you wanted to do in terms of helping your beneficiaries or charities during your life.
Right.
And those are all important pieces. And that really gets back to the importance of planning, and then also the importance of estate planning. What I find fascinating, I was reading an article the other day that approximately about 26% of Americans have some type of estate plan in place, which is just kind of shocking for me that people don't have just the basic documents that you need, whether it's a will, kind of financial or health care, kind of powers of attorney, some trust planning, and things like that.
Let's get back to those in just a minute. We've got a couple of callers. We want to keep them waiting. So, Josh, take it away.
You got it. We got Joe. We got Joe and John on the air. But if you want to join, if your name starts with a J, like Josh, maybe you can call in 844-580-9326. Certified Financial Group, answering your financial questions live on the air. John from Orlando. Go ahead, John. You're on the air.
Morning, John.
Hey,
What's
good
up?
morning. Have a question for you. I'm going to be taking SSA and then also taking disbursements from retirement funds, that kind of thing, and live a pretty frugal life, that kind of thing. But any excesses after, setting aside money for, emergencies, that kind of thing, any excesses, can I reinvest those into a product? Because I don't want it just sitting in a savings account or a checking account and not earning anything. But I would like to make money if I have excesses.
Of course. So what you're talking about is really investing it. And let's get the word product out of there, because product generally refers to something that might be issued by an insurance company, which is okay in certain circumstances. Really what you're after is, okay, I've got this extra cash flow that I don't need today, but I may need for the future. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So what we want to determine is, what are those outlying things that you might have to spend money on in the next 5, 10, how old are you?
62.
All right. So you're still a young guy. Statistically, Charles, we got to worry about 25, 30 years of life in front of you.
Or even longer, yes.
Yeah, so you need to get that money growing for you because the cost of living, as we have seen in recent years, will continue to go up. And that dollar 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now is not going to buy what a dollar will today if it buys anything at all. So you've got to get that money growing for you. And there you want to reinvest it or get it invested in things that will give you growth over the long term. What's your investing experience, John? Have you invested in anything other than, have you had a 401k, IRA throughout your working lifetime?
Yeah. No, I've been investing since I was 13.
Oh, great. Oh, super. So then you know what to do there. I mean, now the question is what's appropriate for you, how aggressive or how conservative you can be. How would you handle that if John walked in your office, Charles? What would you tell him?
Yeah, as you mentioned, you probably wouldn't want to look at checking or savings accounts, especially for excess money from your Social Security, kind of money that's left over from your Social Security disbursement that you receive. You probably would want to look at a way of investing and putting that into some type of taxable brokerage account. And depending on your risk tolerance and kind of goals and needs from this account, we would work with you to build an appropriate portfolio to get that invested and get that working for you so you can keep pace with inflation and have that money grow at a faster rate than you would earn in a checking or savings account.
The most appropriate thing for you or and all of our listeners to know, John, is really how conservatively or how aggressively do you need to invest that excess money? And currently, not only addition the excess, but the money that you currently have. Like I said, at your age of 62, you have 25, 30 years of life expectancy in front of you. And you need to know what that looks like as best you can. And that's what financial planning is all about. I would encourage you to give us a call. It's what Charles and I do. We work with our clients. We don't do financial planning for free. A lot of folks around town like to use that as a come on. We believe that our services are worth the price, but we'd be glad to offer you a no obligation visit. We can sit down and show you exactly what we do and get to know you exactly what you want to do, and then show you what we can do for you, and really kind of clear up that what I call the mind fog of going into retirement. When people retire, they do this what I call back of the envelope financial planning, John. They total up what their expenses are. They look at what they have in savings and investments and retirement accounts and do some quick calculations and think they're going to be okay, only to find out 5, 10 years down the road that the wheels are coming off because they really didn't plan on life popping up and doing what it does. So to answer your question, it's kind of like calling the doctor and saying, where should you put it? What kind of medicine should you buy? Really don't know. But I do know that based on number one is, right, Charles, he's got a lot of life expectancy in front of you, and you've got a plan for that. So I would encourage you to sit down with any of us here at Certified Financial Group. There are a lot of qualified certified financial planners in town. If you're going to go out and invest in the retirement planning world, be sure that you're dealing with a certified financial planner, because certified financial planners are required to work with you as a fiduciary. And I know that's important to a lot of our listeners, and I would encourage you to do that. If you want information about what we do and how we do it, John, go to our website. That's financialgroup.com. financialgroup.com, and I hear the music going there, so Josh, take it away.
You got it. If you want to join John in line, we got Joe and Bill with questions after the break, but if you want to call in, 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO, or you can send in your open mic using that free WDBO app. You can also listen to On the Money anywhere you have some Wi-Fi or data. You don't have to be by the radio to catch WDBO and On the Money if you are inside that WDBO app. There's an open mic feature in there. 844-580-WDBO. You're listening to On the Money, where we are planning tomorrow.
Today.
With the Certified Financial Group. Welcome back to On the Money here on WDBO. My name is Josh McCarthy, joined with Joe Burt and Charles Curry with the team at Certified Financial Group Professionals. Certified Financial Professionals, that is. Certified Financial Planners Professionals. Here answering your question here on The Money on WDBO. If you want to join the conversation, the number is 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO, or you can send in your question via the open mic feature inside the WDBO app. Let's go back to work. Today we got Joe from Kissimmee calling in to pick the brains of our experts. Go ahead, Joe. You're on the air.
Good morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning, guys. So my question today is in regards to trust. I'm 34 years old. Lucky enough to, have bought a house when I was younger, and I already paid it off. Have some money saved up in the high yield savings. I have my 401k, of course, but I just had my first daughter, first kid. So obviously, one day want to leave her the house. That's the plan for now. What type of trust would be beneficial to put all the assets in and make that transition easier down the road.
So what you're talking about is how to pass on your estate to your new daughter.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what most people generally do. The assets. Are you married?
No.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because that's a consideration when you're passing on assets. So all the assets are going to be in your name. So things that are in your name alone are going to go through probate. And that's why people use a trust. And in your case, you probably want to do a living trust. A living trust allows you to name a beneficiary. In this case, it would be your daughter. And because your daughter is a minor, you're going to want to appoint a guardian or a successor trust or a contingent trustee because she obviously can't manage the money until she gets to be of age. But in that being said, you can put the assets in the trust and you can then designate her as the beneficiary, and those assets will pass without probate. Now, it's not free from claims of creditors. God forbid you get sued, and your creditors can get those assets. They can't get your house. They can't get a life insurance policy. They can't get in some cases, your retirement accounts. They can't get annuities, but any other assets that you have are subject to claims of creditors, and a living trust will not protect you from that. So to answer your question there, that's the way to do it. I think what you also want to consider, we haven't talked about this, Joe, is life insurance. I mean, you've got a young lady there that's going to be dependent on you for at least 18 to 20 years or so. And if you get hit by that proverbial truck, what happens to her? And this is where estate planning comes in that Charles and I were talking about before the break, right, Charles? What would you advise Joe here in addition to that?
Yeah, in addition, of course, you want to look at all your retirement accounts that you have. Make sure you have your daughter listed as the primary beneficiary. That's another way for those assets that you're passing for it to go to her, in addition to kind of a living or revocable trust, kind of set up for assets having to do with kind of your home, a car, things like that. In addition, as Joe was mentioning, life insurance is another way to kind of create a legacy bucket of additional assets that will transfer to your daughter and provide additional kind of income or to pay for college, pay for additional expenses in her life.
It's probably not a bad idea to kind of continue on what you're talking about there, Charles. And some of the estate planning documents you have, they're really appropriate, even though you're not at that end of life situation, Joe. But you have to prepare because you're a single dad there with a young daughter. Some documents you should have in place if you don't have them already. So I want to go through that list there, Charles.
Yeah, the main documents that you need, of course, is to have a will and have a power of attorney both for financial decisions as well as for healthcare decisions, and have a kind of a living will as well that has to do with kind of end-of-life decisions.
So Charles had mentioned, excuse me, Charles, but you had mentioned power of attorney, and let's talk about really where that comes into play. So, as financial planners, we have to look over the horizon and look at kind of worst-case scenarios. Mm-hmm. So worst-case scenario for you, Joe, something happens to you. You're laid up in the hospital, and you can't manage yourself or for your daughter. So this is where the power of attorney comes in, right, Charles?
Correct. Yeah, you need to designate someone who's going to handle your financial affairs if you become incapacitated, can't make decisions in order to make sure your bills are paid and everything's taken care of, especially since we're talking about you and your daughter and who's going to be taking care of both of you if something was to happen to you, and then the others having to make medical decisions that if you're not able to, that you have somebody that you've designated to come in and make those decisions on your behalf.
And Charles had mentioned a will. A will does not avoid probate. A will is really your instructions to the probate judge as to who gets your assets. So the only way to avoid probate is to have things passed directly by beneficiary or through a living trust we talked about. Joe, if you want to hang on after the break, there's a little bit more we can just discuss on this. And I see Bill's on the line as well. We'll catch up to you, Bill, is right after the break.
That's right. If you want to hop in line, 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. Send in your open mic using that free WDBO app. You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning today with the Certified Financial Group. Welcome back to On the Money right here on WDBO 107.3 FM, AM 580, always streaming inside your WDBO app. This is your chance to hop on the air, ask the experts in this hour, of course, are the experts at the Certified Financial Group. This was On the Money, brought to you by Certified Financial Group. I invite you to call in 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. We also have Wynn Smith standing by off the air. That number is 407-869-9800. Wynn Smith, another certified financial planner. That building is full of certified financial planners over there at the Certified Financial Group. Wynn Smith standing by. If your question is maybe a more the personal matter, or you want to give exact numbers and you don't want to give that information over the air, that's understandable. So see Certified Financial Group provides somebody right now, Wynn Smith, to take your calls live off the air. And again, that number is 407-869-9800. Sitting in studio today, we got Joe Burt and Charles Curry taking calls, and we're going to go ahead and go back to Joe in Kissimmee. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe, thanks for hanging on. Let's, for our listeners that might have just joined us, why don't we recap what your question was, and we'll come back and try to fill in some of the blanks that we missed before the break.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So my question was in regards to trust and, the fact that I'm 34 years old. I have lucky enough to have paid off my house already. I just had a daughter that was born 4 months ago. And I want to know what the best way for me to have all my assets situated that one day if something were to happen, they go straight into her hands.
Yeah, as we had mentioned before the break, was that you would definitely want to work with an estate planning attorney in regards to setting up either what's called a revocable living trust for yourself. That way you can make sure the assets that you have are titled correctly, so if something was to happen to you, that those assets would pass to her at your passing. And of course, the other things that we mentioned in terms of having a will, having a financial power of attorney, as well as a healthcare power of attorney, are all other essential documents to have in your file, which if you work with a competent estate planning attorney, they'll work with you to get those established too, in order to make sure that you're protected as well as your daughter's protected if something was to happen to you during your life.
Well, congratulations on getting your house paid for there, Joe. It's important to understand, though, that you may not need to rush into having a trust done. You can simplify life quite a bit by having your accounts set up appropriately. Charles touched on this before the break. If you have retirement accounts, you want to be sure that your beneficiary's in place because that'll avoid probate. If you have insurance policies or annuities, you have a beneficiary that avoids probate. It'll go directly to the beneficiary that you name. And so I would go along with what Charles says. Sit down with an estate planning attorney. I'm more concerned about if something happens to you before your daughter is of age and she needs to carry on and you're not in the ability to carry on. This is where the real problem comes in. And you sound like a guy that's got your act together. Congratulations, having your house paid for at age 34. But this is what you want to look at. Look at really what's the worst case scenario and how can you protect yourself. And one of the things that you'll definitely want to consider is life insurance. The good news for you is if you're in good health, you can buy a whole ton of life insurance without any high premiums. And stay away from whole life, universal life, all that stuff. Get yourself a 25, 30-year term policy. It's going to cost you pennies to do that. And it'll, God forbid something happens to you, you're sure your daughter's going to be taken care of.
Awesome. And could I ask on investing, how would you guys recommend I diversify? Like I said, I have my 401k. I fund it just to the max of the match of my employer. I do have a pretty good, sizable, high-yield savings account. That's all I have.
Okay.
I've never been big into investing. I don't know much. What would you recommend?
I would recommend that you max out the contribution to your retirement account. This is the silver bullet that you have that's going to prevent you from being homeless when you get into your 60s. Unfortunately, most people don't save early on and don't do it the right way. The good news for you is you have a plan, so put in the maximum that you can into your plan. At your particular age, you can put in $23,000 a year on a pre-tax basis. What your company is matching, that's kind of gravy. But what you want to focus on is getting up to that maximum of $23,000 at your age and getting that going for yourself. The beauty of your situation, Joe, is you have time time. And I want to tell you, if you start young and you start putting in a lot of money in that plan, you'll be amazed at how it grows. Unfortunately, most people don't realize this until they're in their 50s and they look back, I should have done this 20 years ago. But you're smart enough, number one, to listen to this program on Saturday morning, and number two, to be concerned about your financial future for yourself and your wife. So that's, if you were sitting in my office and you gave me your situation, this is exactly what I would tell you to do. Focus on maximing out the contribution to your retirement plan. Now, here's what you want to look at. In your plan, you probably have what's called target date funds. Is that right? You know what those are? They have a date attached to it, like 2030, 2040, 2050, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you want to focus on, let's say, year 30. So you got 30 years away. So look at a 2050 fund. Now, this is the one that's the most aggressive, which means that when the market's doing well, you're going to be knocking the door, blowing the doors off. When the market goes down, you're going to go down. But you have time on your side to recover. And this is what you want to do. Put the money in there. Don't look at it. Don't make changes when the market goes down. That's the worst thing you can do. Just keep socking that money away every paycheck. You don't see it. You don't spend it. And it's compounding and growing for you without being taxed. And you're getting a tax deduction along the way. You can't beat that.
And what about my high yield savings? What should I just leave it as is right now?
How much you have in there?
53,000.
Okay, that's probably a little on the high side.
How much are you earning on that high yield savings today?
It's the Discover. It's like 4.5, I think.
Well, that's pretty good. Are you self-employed? No,
I'm not.
No. You have a 401k. Okay, you're in great shape. You probably have too much sitting in that high yield savings account. I mean, unless you've got some big major expenses coming up, that's a nice cushion to have, but it's probably overkill. Wouldn't you say, Charles?
Yeah.
Maybe it's $25,000 too much. So if you increase the contribution to your 401k plan, you find you're a little bit short every month because you're putting so much into it. Use some of that.
Start taking some.
Exactly. Perfect. Because now you're getting a tax deduction, and then you'll thank me come next April.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate the advice.
Appreciate your call. Have a great weekend.
Thank
And
you.
we're gonna get back to Charles, and we were talking about how to leave a legacy, right, Charles? We kind of cut you off there with our callers this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, but in terms of conversations, what we just spoke with Joe there on air was a lot of what I was going to talk about today in terms of kind of estate planning when it comes to legacies and the importance of that. The other piece has to do kind of with managing your taxes. One of the things that none of us kind of think about, but as we get older, and of course, if we're utilizing 401ks through work as kind of our primary savings vehicle for retirement, those assets can grow and compound at a pretty good rate if you're investing correctly. When you get up to kind of age 72, 73, 75, when required minimum distributions or IMDs kind of kick in, you can be surprised with kind of the tax hit that you might be seeing as you start pulling assets out of your retirement accounts, and that's kind of treated as income to you. So working with a competent advisor or CFP professional can help you kind of work through kind of the tax implications and ways to kind of minimize your taxes during your working years. And of course, as you get into retirement, some of those things to look at is how to be tax efficient when it comes to investing, whether it's tax loss harvesting in your account or looking at Roth conversions, different ways to reduce your taxes or pay taxes now and in the future not have to pay taxes. Those are all important things to kind of think about. One of the statistics that I was kind of reading in preparation for our conversation today was having to do with, for example, an individual that had $2 million kind of in their IRA, and why they need to be kind of careful with that. Because if you think about it, if you have, let's say, about $2 million sitting in the account, and that assets, we'll say, grows over the next 10 to 15 years, you potentially could have $5 million sitting inside your IRA, and that's assuming kind of a moderate annual rate of return of about 7% or so. Meaning that when you have to start taking your RMDs, or required minimum distributions, that might be close to $200,000 that you need to start taking out, and it potentially could grow up to $500,000 in your 90s, which a lot of folks don't think about that when they get into their retirement years, that, hey, I might be pulling out a lot of income out of my account. All of a sudden now Social Security, Medicare all might become taxable to me, and all of a sudden my taxes might be in the highest tax bracket than when I was working. And what is that going to impact me? And then, of course, how it might impact my widow at my passing, and how there's things that I could be doing today working with a CFP professional that could help me kind of mitigate or minimize that potential tax impact in the future. And that really comes back to that legacy. How do you preserve kind of your assets and make sure it goes to who you want to go to, and then also with proper estate planning documentation, making sure those assets go to who you want it to go to versus kind of Uncle Sam or somebody else. And there's important pieces today that we kind of live in a world where people are litigious, and if you don't do proper things through proper documentation, you could open yourself up to other risks that you weren't expecting that could diminish your legacy that you could leave as well.
Leading into that, next 2 weeks from today, easy for you to say, 6 steps to legacy planning for the generations. This will be hosted by Matt Murphy. It's a workshop in our office from 10 to 11:30. You can make reservations for that right at our website, financialgroup.com. That's financialgroup.com. Click on that, and you are welcome to bring a guest. Once again, 2 weeks from today, 6 steps to legacy planning for the generations. I think you'll find it very useful. It expands on what Charles was talking about this morning.
Exactly.
He will have a well-known estate planning attorney with him for you to ask questions and get some legal advice along the way, and we think you will enjoy it. And I hear the music there, Josh. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's right. It's time to take one of them breaks where we can talk about weather and traffic and all the good things. Getting back to the financial information you know to expect here on The Money on WDBO. One more segment. If you want to join the conversation live on the air, you can pick up the phone and dial 844-580-9326, 844-580 WDBO, or if you want to talk to Win Smith live in the office off the air, but it's still that people that you know to respect, the certified financial planners with the Certified Financial Group. Win Smith is in the office at 407-869-9800. 407-869-9800. You're listening to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow
Today
with the Certified Financial Group. Welcome back to On the Money here on WDBO, brought to you by the Certified Financial Group. We have Charles Curry and Joe Burt in studio today answering your questions live on the air. But as the show comes to a close, I want to let you know that Win Smith is still available to answer your financial questions. If you're coming into the retirement years or you want to just plan ahead, like our earlier caller who's 34 and way ahead of the game, it sounds like. He must be an avid fan of the show. I'm taking the steps to heart that the Certified Financial Group offers here on Saturday mornings. Or you can leave in your, forgive me, if you want to talk to Win Smith, that number is 407-869-9800. Off air, off the office number, 407-869-9800. Or you can leave an open mic inside our WDBO app, just like this listener.
This is Misak from Orlando. We have $100,000 to invest. We're wondering if annuities are a good way to get a monthly check to add to our retirement. Thank you.
Misak, it is a way to get a monthly check. You want to be careful what kind of annuity that you buy. When you buy an annuity, you're giving that $100,000 to an insurance company in exchange for a check for either your lifetime or your lifetime and another survivor's lifetime, or for a definite period of time. That's what annuities are for. And there's some good ones and there are bad ones out there, but it is a consideration.
But you also, the other thing you have to consider is that when you do that, you are giving control of your money to somebody else, and that if you anticipate maybe have an expense in the future, you're not going to be able to access that full $100,000 when you need it. In essence, you're giving up your risks to the annuity company for typically a guaranteed amount of interest and a monthly check to you.
And annuities come in all shapes and sizes, so you want to be careful there. There's also what's called a charitable annuity. It allows you to get a tax deduction for a certain percentage that you put in there. You don't get a full tax deduction because you're going to be getting income in exchange, but you get a tax deduction, help out your favorite charity, and get a check for your lifetime or your lifetime in a survivor's lifetime, beneficiary's lifetime. So something you may want to consider. It's not good for everybody, but to answer your question, it is a way to get a guaranteed check for your lifetime.
And just be careful of the fees. One of the things that we've seen with that is there's some very high fees in some of those annuity contracts, maybe more so than you would ever imagine if you were investing it on your own through other mutual funds or ETFs out there in terms of generating income for yourself.
And the rule of thumb is never buy an annuity that you heard about at a lunch or dinner seminar. By all means, just stay away from them. All right, we had Bill that was hanging on there, Josh, and he had a question. Unfortunately, he couldn't hang on, but as I recall, it was a question about the sale on his house and the impact on Medicare. Is that right?
That sounds familiar. Yeah, he wanted to know what were the limitations, I think, too.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if he's married, the good news is he can have a profit on the sale of his house. This has nothing to do with the mortgage, but has to do with what you paid for, any major improvements that you put into it, any additions that you put in the house, and that's your profit. And then you have, if you're single, you have $250,000 of tax-free profit. If you're married, it's $500,000. And you have to, the caveat there is you have to have lived in the house, been your primary residence for 2 out of 5 years. And now the question is if you're over that limit, what happens to your Medicare? Well, let's review this. This is what's called IRMA, right? Mm-hmm. Right, Charles? The lowest Medicare tax for folks today is $174 per month. It can go on up to almost $600 per month, depending on what your income is. So if you got a huge sale on investments of some sort, or just have a windfall of some sort, you could find yourself paying, 3 times what most people pay. Not most people, but I should say most people pay for Medicare. So you want to take that into consideration. That's also impacts you're taking money out of your retirement accounts and all that kind of stuff. You take a big withdrawal, do a big Roth conversion, you find all of a sudden I'm paying more for Medicare. So these are all the things that we consider. We do as certified financial planners. You want more about what Charles and I and now the 15 other certified financial planners do day in and day out, working for our clients, providing retirement planning and investment planning for a fee, working as fiduciaries. You can check us out at financialgroup.com. That's financialgroup.com.
Thank you so much, Joe Bird. Charles Curry, always offering great advice on the Saturday mornings of the On the Money Show. And again, if you want to call the office, Winsmith standing by at 407-869-9800. You've just listened to On the Money, where we're planning tomorrow
today
with the Certified Financial Group.